So this first question, I'm going to ask the same question of the three of you, and Tricia, will start with you. Just overall, in this time of crisis that we're facing, and everybody's facing it, regardless of what industry you're in, or if you're retired or a student, we're all facing this together globally. So what would you say is the largest challenge that you and your team are facing today?
Thanks, Althea. It's great to see everybody, and thanks for giving me a reason to shower and get dressed and see all of you today. I think for us, as Althea mentioned, Crowley Webb is a local ad agency. We have a young staff, but we rely so much on seeing each other every day in the office. And so one of the challenges was certainly to figure out how to mobilize the entire group out of the gate. And I'm proud to say we didn't skip a beat. And I think we reacted early on in the process. We knew, sort of had a hunch of what was coming and wanted to at least test out the idea of working from home. And our test has now turned into our reality. So we were able to get everybody together out of the gate. And that was really important. And I think since then, the biggest challenge has been really managing all of the different personalities of the people on our team. And some are taking this better than others. And so how we adjust and how we adapt as leaders and as managers to those different personalities during this time, it really for us has been, I would say, a big challenge, but I'm proud of the way that we've adapted.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And Marcia, same question. What would you say the companies you work with and the executives that you're coaching, what would you say is the biggest challenge they're facing right now?
So I think we've probably heard 1,000 times already that this is what we're experiencing now is unprecedented, no question. But if you examine that a little bit further, I think the reason it's unprecedented is because it's so unpredictable. We don't know what's next. We've never experienced this before. I mean, we've had tragedies. I mean, we've had financial crashes. We had 9/11. We've had tragedies. But this is a global tragedy. We've never experienced this before. This is the first time, outside of a major world war. And so it's the unpredictability of not knowing what to do because we don't know what's coming next. We don't know how long it's going to take. We don't know what the right thing to do is. And so people across industries, like my client groups, are feeling their way through this. And, it's scary. And so it's managing the unpredictability of it, the volatility of it, the complexity of it, and the ambiguity. Those would be the biggest challenges.
It sure is tough. It's we just try to keep doing things 2 weeks at a time, and we're such planners, and we have our whole 2021 planned already, and 2020 is not even going to happen the right way. So it's very challenging, yeah. And for us control freaks that like to have everything locked, in a row, it's not working right now. So
that's out the window. No more checklists.
Erin, same question. What would you say? Because you still have staff on site, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I want to kind of start off first and foremost by thanking you, Althea, and really your team for focusing on this topic in particular, because I will say over the last 3 weeks or so, many of us have spent countless hours on webinars to understand new legislation, new business requirements, the economic condition, and even other factors about the virus itself. But there's been so little focus on leadership and kind of keeping things together and holding things together. So thank you for bringing us together on this topic. From our perspective, EMAC it's a global manufacturer with over 1,500 employees, and we are deemed as an essential supplier. So we have 3 core business lines, and each one of them uniquely touch and impact essential businesses around the world. We're operating in 6 countries with 8 facilities. So our biggest challenge, we really have 2. The first is keeping it all together, asking people to come in and work and operate as they normally would have in an environment that you look to the left and you look to the right, and you just sort of hope that these people that are in the same facility as you are establishing the same practices at home. We have sent all of our office employees, about 300 or so, to work remote, but all of manufacturing is still fully operational. So that challenge of bringing people together, keeping them focused, keeping them productive, and giving them a sense of security and support has been our biggest focus. The second challenge, like all of the other businesses out there, is forecasting. So our other big challenge is forecasting our business through the rest of 2020 and really into the first half of 2021, trying to figure out what it's going to look like.
Yeah. I think we're all in that boat. So yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. I hope this ends up, we're going to end on a high note with this because everybody's like, oh, we don't want to have that happen. So now I have a couple individual questions for our panelists. And as Jenna mentioned, the chat room is open. If you do have questions, we will look at those at the end after we answer these. And if we have time, we'll ask as many as we can. So Tricia, I'm going to start with you, Marcia, on this one. So tell me what you think. So you're Dr. Marcia King. So you have a great background in this. So psychologically, what do people go through during a crisis, and how can managers lead them through this as far as their mental state and what they're feeling and thinking?
Right. Well, first of all, I think it is such a good question that a lot of us may not be thinking about, but every single one of us are going through a psychological process to manage through this crisis. And again, these are uncharted waters. And so this is not a process that we've done before. So it's difficult. There is no formula for how we manage stress. So the way I manage stress is going to be very different than how you manage stress. What stresses me out may not stress you out. I have a different threshold than other people have. And so we can't use a blanket approach for everybody. But what we can say is that we all have what I would call is a tipping point. And a tipping point is where you go from managing stress in a really healthy way to managing it in a not so healthy way. And when that happens, we go past this tipping point, most of us have probably heard of the response of fight, flight, or freeze. We do go into fight, flight, or freeze. This is genetically embedded in our DNA, in our brain. Our brain uses fight, flight, or freeze as a method to protect us. And so my guess would be that the people on our teams that we're managing and the people around us are in one of those. We tend to have a go-to. Mine is flight. I know this well about myself. I am flight when I'm stressed out. But many others are fight and many others are freeze. And so when we go through this, the fight in us is about, we want to combat whatever the threat is. Our brain is telling us there's a threat. You need to do something. Get into fight, flight, or freeze. And so some people move into fight, which is more of the combat. Some people, like myself, we move into flight, which is the run from it. And then others move into the freeze, which is really more about hiding from it or trying to find protection from it. The result of that psychologically is it has a significant impact on our ability to think, the ability to manage our emotions, and our behaviors. And so the thinking piece is that we actually, neurologically, we lose the ability to have creative problem solving or complex thinking. And again, our brain is doing this purposely because it's trying to get us out of this threat. And so it's pushed us into this fight, flight, or freeze. And so we lose the ability for this complex thinking. We also have a wider range of emotions, and it's usually in the realm of fear or anger or shock. But our emotions become a roller coaster. And if you think about that, if our thinking changes and our emotions are on a roller coaster, what's going to happen? Our behaviors are going to change. Mm-hmm. And so when you see probably ill-placed or not the best behaviors happening at the workplace, just remember, this is a psychological process they're going through. They're not purposely behaving poorly. They're going through something. So, just as I'm starting to sound like the Grim Reaper, there's actually good news here as well. Even though this process is going on, the psychological process is going on, we can control it. And so there's two things I always recommend to the folks that I'm working with in coaching. The first one is self-care. Give yourself whatever it is you need to prevent yourself from getting to that tipping point. For me, I need time alone. I just do. I'm an introvert. I need time alone. Some people need social time. Some people need nature. Give yourself what you need because that'll help you to prevent it. The second piece is recognize that you can, whatever behavior it is that you're demonstrating that may not be healthy and effective, you can change it. So we do have choice. There is this moment of time between our emotions, our irrational emotions, and our behaviors, and we can stretch out that time and we can give ourselves a replacement behavior. But you got to be intentional and you got to think about it in advance. If you wait until you're in the situation, not going to happen.
Great advice. And I think as leaders, we can actually do check-ins with our teams and make sure that see how they're feeling and offer some of those opportunities for them. So thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
Aaron, So let's move on to Erin. One of the questions we'd like to ask you, Erin, is you work for a very large global organization, and some of your folks are actually charged with being in the business. What is the largest change your organization has experienced through all of this, and what is impacting the way your leaders are expected to lead?
So from a change perspective, I'd say the biggest piece is transforming the way that we work, completely transforming all together. So prior to joining EMEC, I worked at a tech company for a number of years. And I'd say, no one was perfectly equipped for this, but tech organizations have the equipment, are familiar with processes of working remote. And I'm sure that they probably had a little bit more of an ease for adjustment for this. At EMAC, a lot more traditional when you think of manufacturing. So first we had to equip a large administrative workforce with laptops. Shout out to the IT people out there because they truly are some business heroes here in this circumstance. But we had to very quickly turn around, deploy, test, and train a very diverse set of employees who I will tell you, I talked to one of our corporate support team members the other day, and he was telling me how he spent 7 hours walking through how to VPN in and how to click on certain things on a computer with an employee who has never worked on a laptop before and has never logged in from home. So a complete transformation on how we work is number one. Others, of course, adopted to this and are loving it. So that's kind of the big change was the transformation of working remote and then making sure people stay connected. At a corporate level, we're driving about 4 different types of communications a week to convey keeping connected, whether it be our CEO holding virtual global all hands each week. We have communications, newsletters, and then we're also doing check-ins with managers to make sure that they understand best practices of having fun in this new way of work. Internally, so again, going back to having still about 1,200 employees reporting into a facility each day, we've completely transformed the way our operations are laid out from, staggering our shifts, major sanitation measures. We've even changed over women's locker rooms and restrooms to give more to the men. For example, the side of the building that I'm on, there are only 2 females in this area. So we've transformed that locker room that goes into our gym, which we've closed, into a men's locker room to provide more spacing, and I'll just use a facility somewhere else. We actually have even made our own hand sanitizer. So we followed the World Health Organization instructions. We've made hand sanitizer so that way we can produce more for our employees, both at work and to be able to take home. Our medical manufacturing site has transformed to be able to make face masks because we know that those are in short supply, and the FDA regulated ones should go to the hospitals and healthcare professionals. So we're being very innovative in the things that we're doing and how we've changed the way that we work. We've done postings all over the facility. We've done taping on the floors, which you probably see in some of the supermarkets, to make sure that people are practicing social distancing, and we are monitoring that, and we're enforcing that in the facility. So a pretty significant change on how we work. It does make you wonder when we return back to normal, what the new normal will be. And I'm kind of looking forward to how businesses do transform, because we will get used to some of these new ways of working. And some of them have been best practices that, have just we've stumbled on through this transformation. So we'll see how that continues on after COVID. But for us, it's really just totally changing the way that we work.
Yeah. So I'm going to come back to you to follow up on that question, but we're going to go back to Tricia for a second on this. So talk about motivation too, and how are you keeping, you have such a fantastic culture at Crowley Webb. And we've experienced it. We have a lot of your folks as our graduates. And how are you keeping that culture intact now that everyone's working remotely? How are you motivating them and keeping them feeling safe and normal?
Thanks. That's something that's really important to us. And to be honest, when we did an employee survey, an engagement survey earlier this year, what people love most about Crawley Web are the people, number one, and our culture, number two. And so now all of a sudden you strip some of that away by being remote. And how do you keep some of those best practices and things intact that everyone that we work with was so accustomed to? So first of all, I think to Erin's point too, the frequent communication has been key. Also making sure it's honest and it's transparent. I found that when this all started a few weeks ago, we were gathering as our management group, as our leadership team, and we were talking a lot. And I sort of took it upon myself to say, I'm just gonna start writing a lot and have you all react to it, because if we spend time in meetings and not acting, we're not gonna get anywhere. So we just had to stay on top of it. And so we have also been having frequent communication. Last Friday was supposed to be our agency retreat, which we look forward to every year, and we had to cancel it. But today, our CEO actually took us through our state of the agency to be able to give a transparent look at everything from financials to new business to how we're going to weather the storm, which thankfully, knock on wood, we should be able to do that. But the culture part of it has been something that we've all been trying to think about how best to keep that intact. So the first week we were all home, we started what we call work from home OTS. We do something at the office called beer on the stairs every Friday, so BOTS. So now it's the work from home HOTS. So we've been doing Friday happy hours with the whole team, and we're starting to theme those, and we have different questions that are being asked and different things that different employees are leading so that they feel like they have a part in helping to craft what that hour looks like. So we're doing that every Friday at 4. We had mandatory fun yesterday, which was to celebrate all of the March birthdays. And we were a day late on it, but we had people who baked cakes at home and had cookies and different things, and we sang together happy birthday to our employees. So that was something that was fun to do. I think me personally, I've been checking in with each department. I pick a different department every day, and I check in and just do wellness checks on everybody. And I do it individually, not as a group, because I think it's important just as a leader to have that individual touch point, and people might be a little bit more honest if we're able to talk one-on-one. So that's something I've been keeping up with daily. And something that we also introduced at the agency, which is really fun, it's called Crawley Connections. And the idea is that it's an opt-in program for any of our employees. And the idea being that you get paired with someone new and you have a month to get together, whether it's for a cup of coffee or a drink or to take a walk or to do something. And so we've been keeping up with Crawley Connections and encouraging people to still meet. And if they feel comfortable taking a socially distant walk together, that's something they can do, but otherwise have a video chat or do something, because it's important that we keep that contact, that we keep checking in on each other. So that's we've just encouraged all of those things to continue.
Yeah.
To our parents who have little kids at home, we out of the gate told them we want to see the kids, we want to hear the kids, we want to see the dogs, the cats, we have a rabbit in the family that someone brings to meetings and different things. So we embrace that, we encourage that. We also made a time code, because we do timesheets daily. We made a time code for COVID-19 so that if someone is experiencing downtime related to the pandemic, whether it's because their clients aren't as busy or because they're spending more time homeschooling or doing that type of work, that they aren't going to get penalized for that. And so we want them, though, to be tracking their time so that we're aware of the impact it's having on our business. And also for those who may have downtime, that we're able to potentially get to some of those back burner agency projects that we haven't been able to get to in the past and start working on some of those things. So it's been an all hands on deck approach to make sure that culture keeps up. The one other example I'll give is we have a program that was an employee-led initiative called Crowley Webb Gives Back. And it's something where we would pick a different organization to support each month, and the employees would really get behind it. And so we've launched a virtual Gives Back program with lots of different options for our employees to stay involved in the community in whatever capacity they feel comfortable doing. I know Leadership Buffalo is doing something similar, and we've borrowed some of the ideas that Leadership Buffalo has put forth, but we have a strong commitment to giving back to the community. And so finding ways for our employees to continue to be able to do that has been very crucial, because for the most part, we are a young, healthy group. And even though we are not, no one is immune to what's happening. We do think that it's important to try and do our part to support this community.
Yeah, that's great. You guys are really keeping up that great culture that you have in your company. So it's easier with a team of 5 people. We do a daily phone check-in every day through Zoom, so we get to see each other's faces and remember that we're a team. But I think, girls, we might have to switch that one of these days to a happy hour, don't you?
Agree. Totally agree.
There you go. So, Erin, I'm going to start with you on this one. This is a question from the audience. What do you, I have to get into my chat room here. What do you do with the people that are the complaints that you're getting from employees, if you are, such as it's not safe to work, I don't think I should be here, or I could be making more money on unemployment right now, plus the stimulus. What are you doing with those and handling that?
Yeah, and I will absolutely admit we have that, and we have that, and then some. I think for me, the key narrative in all of this for every business is essentially, how will your employees feel about you and your business after we're through all of this?
Mm-hmm.
So while we're trying to address the remarks, the comments, the concerns today, we have to not just address them today, but address them with empathy and consideration. And again, think about, well, whatever we do today, what are they going to think about the exact actions we took today, 6, 12 months from now? Because it's going to be very telling for us down the road. So we do have to be really thoughtful in responding to some of that. I'd say with, if people are saying things like it's not safe to work here, hopefully you've done everything you can to consider all sorts of recommendations to change your work environment. And I have lists and lists of things that we've done, because we did form a COVID response team. And you can reach out to me. I'm happy to share with you our newsletters. Our weekly newsletters do communicate all the things that we've implemented. So I'm more than happy to share that. I would say at this point, you should look at your policies and procedures. Find ways that you can relax those policies and procedures. We've done that with strict attendance policies that we have. We've relaxed on a lot of those things. We've instituted different flexible work arrangements if people need them. So we've taken a number of measures from that perspective. But if they continue to say it's not safe here, does your leave of absence policy allow for some sort of hardship leave, where maybe you allow the person then to go home and they don't receive pay? The chances of them getting unemployment is incredibly low. But if you can keep them on as an active employee, they would still have the benefit of having medical insurance potentially. No one's, of course, chaining the door shut and keeping people in anywhere. And it's just important to respond appropriately to that concern and find ways to, again, relax your policies. And if you can, let them go home for a couple of weeks, unpaid, if you're able to do that. I spoke with an attorney this morning on a couple of questions we had, though, and in talking with him, he did mention most essential businesses that continue to operate are being very, very strict with their policies and insisting people come in because they need them. They can't do without them. On the unemployment question, too, the piece of, I could make more on unemployment, and sure, in some roles that certainly could be the case. Again, if someone's saying, hey, I should just go, can you fire me? I don't want to be here. If I was on unemployment, I'd collect more money. Again, the response there is, well, those programs are in place temporarily to serve the benefit of those who truly do not have work options. And under those unemployment benefits, they don't include things like medical insurance or other perks that you may be receiving. And we want you here for the long term. So, it's again, it's all about how you sort of respond to that. It's going to happen for every one negative person, though. Hopefully, you have 10 positive ones. Again, I just kind of stress with this, what can you do around your policies, but also just be really mindful of how you do respond to those things, because people will remember, and they'll remember for months and years to come.
Thank you, Erin. That's great information to share. Marcia, so I'm going to move to you on this one. So what do you think is the number one mistake that managers or leaders make when leading their team through a crisis? And what should they be avoiding doing?
Right. Well, so, that's a good one, because when we become a manager, we're hired to do certain things, and especially when we're in a crisis. And so as managers, we go into hyper focus on solving problems, removing roadblocks, creating action plans, focusing on tasks. And because of that, we tend to neglect or ignore the people side and the emotional side. In fact, we often think of those as binary. We're either task focused or we're people focused. And that's a mistake. The solution to that is to recognize that they're all important. In fact, they're all equally important. And if you neglect one over the other's going to fail. And so what I'm seeing is a lot of managers who are worried and frightened, and so they jump into the task, which, by the way, they have to. I mean, they've got to continue business, and oftentimes they're in triage and they've got to save their business. And so there's nothing wrong with that, but they need to do a better job of, and not everybody, I'm hearing a lot of positive things here tonight about managing the emotional side, but a lot of managers need to really try to combine those two. Some of the leaders that I work with, I give them some very easy strategies. And for example, when you have a staff meeting, spend the first 10 minutes checking in with people, asking them how they're doing, how they're feeling, how are they managing through this. Do more one-on-ones. Check in with people and ask them, how are you feeling? How's your family doing? What's going on? Are your kids at home? And really pay attention to that personal side. And when you do that, a lot of the grumbling and a lot of the complaining goes away, because this person now sincerely believes that the manager cares about them as much as a person as they do an employee. So a lot of times that's all it takes to get some of the grumbling to go away. But balancing that, I think, is a really difficult thing. Managing is one of the hardest jobs ever. And if it were easy, we'd all do it. It is not easy. Managing people through this crisis is difficult on steroids. But if you're able to balance both of those sides, the business side, getting the tasks done, and the emotional side, it will go way smoother.
Thank you. I'm one of the most, for those who know me, one of the most positive glasses always half full. And I have found myself getting teary-eyed and just feeling like, oh my heavens, what are we doing and how are we going to do this? But one of the things that we do is every day when we have our team meeting, we end it with, give me something positive. What's good? A lot of times it's jokes about husbands and kids and things like that, but, or my grandson pops into the picture, but it's, just trying to end on that high note. So Tricia, I'm going to move on to you with this one. So let's do a little bit of talk about your clients. So a lot of your business or part of your business is in the farm industry. So it had been taken kind of a hit. So how are your clients being impacted and your business being impacted with this happening?
Yeah, it's a good question. We across the board took a look at all of our different clients, and I'm very thankful that as an agency we've got phenomenal partners in stable categories. We have a sister agency out in Oregon whose primary clients are all hospitality and retail and tourism, and they're obviously taking a much bigger hit. But we went into disaster mode, as I think most probably do out of the gate, and looked at, okay, if our clients stop doing what they're doing, then what does that mean for us? What does that mean for our employees? And what we quickly found is that our clients in some cases need our help more than ever, because they need to know how to communicate and how to respond. And so we've had to jump into action. I will say on the healthcare side of things, as Althea mentioned at the onset, we're recruiting patients to participate in clinical trials. And right now, the only trials that are successfully recruiting are probably those related to COVID-19. And the rest of the clinical trials, patients don't want to necessarily volunteer to go into hospitals or to go to their doctor's offices if they're not supposed to leave home. And so we had to strategize and be proactive with our clients to say, not only here's what we can do to pause or stop or pivot, the support that we're currently offering you. But what's even more important is here are the different communication tools that you're going to need to communicate to those research sites, those doctors' offices, those patients, to let them know how you are responding and reacting. So I think across the board, after we thought about, oh no, what does this mean? Are we going to be okay? We went straight to yes, yes, yes. And now how can we help others? And so in addition to our paying clients, to our nonprofit clients, to our pro bono clients, to just our friends in the community, what can we do to help support you? And how can we brainstorm and do things that we know we can offer support for? So for example, we have one nonprofit who was supposed to have a big gala and it had to be canceled, and it was their biggest fundraiser of the year. LB knows this well. We've postponed values, but we're meeting on Friday and doing a virtual brainstorm as to how could we potentially take this gala virtual for that particular nonprofit, and what would that look like? So I think we're finding that with our clients, yes, of course their business has been impacted, but we've also found that there's more stability than we really expected or thought there might be, and there still is work to be done, and some of it is new and different type of work, but it's I get more concerned when we have those people on our team who've been affected maybe by not having as much work, and then they start to get in their own head. So it's really important as managers that we make sure that people's plates are full and that they're kept busy, so that they don't start thinking, oh no, am I needed? Am I going to get fired? What's going to happen to me? And so I've probably fielded 1 to 2 of those calls a day, just really trying to reassure people that we are going to be okay, and we've put those measures in place to make sure that we can keep the team as busy as possible.
Well, those are all really good points, because I'm sure a lot of people are worried about what's going to happen to my job, and trying to reassure them and be as honest as you can, I think, is the best policies with that. So I'm going to ask you all this question, but Marcia, I'm going to start with you. So as leaders, managing teams, leading teams, being a part of a team, what should we be doing and then thinking about in the next days, weeks, and months in this very, very uncertain time?
Oh, that's such a good question. I think what we need to be thinking about in the next days is kind of settled for us. We know that it's about survival right now. We're maneuvering through this really unpredictable situation. So all eyes, all hands, all on deck for what's going on and managing this through the business. But I also feel very strongly that as things start to settle, and it will, I mean, this is temporary, it's going to settle, and it's probably not even that long. None of us know, which is kind of the difficulty of the whole situation. But as things begin to settle, this is the perfect opportunity to teach ourselves, our teams, our organization, some of the more complex skills that are really tough to teach. Resilience, for example, is the perfect example. How do you teach resilience? Well, you put someone in a really tough situation. I don't know of any situation that we've experienced that's probably tougher than this, right? And when we teach resilience, normally we have to create an artificial situation. There's nothing artificial about this. So this is the perfect time to start looking at what are some of these muscles that we need to build, because the next time around, and there will be a next time, there's going to be another crisis. Who knows what it'll be? We don't know if it'll be a pandemic or not, but there will be another crisis. Those muscles will be stronger. Now is the time to start thinking of that. You know, as things settle, what is it that your organization needs to learn? What muscles do they need to build? And figure out ways to do that.
Thank you. Great information to share. Thank you. Erin, same question.
Yeah, so I think I'll go back first just to reiterate the narrative from the previous comment was just, again, as leaders, continue to think about when we are through of all of this, how will our employees feel about our company and us as a leader? I think in the next coming days and weeks, I think it's staying consistent on what we're sort of referencing as the 4 C's, and keeping that throughout. So communication is the first, always rises to the top of the need of all employees. So continuous communication comes first. Second is continue to provide clarity. So the second C being clarity, and do that often. Clarity around job expectations, clarity around how the company is progressing, clarity around what you believe is next and what has been affirmed as being next. The third C we talk about is consistency. So whatever you've established in your daily cadence with your team, keep that consistent as much as you possibly can. You know, Friday happy hours at 4 and Tuesday check-ins at 2, and you know, whatever it may be. But people rely on that consistency, especially during these times. And if you did something for the last 2 weeks and all of a sudden you don't do it the third week, they're going to wonder why. And even if you don't have a whole heck of a lot to share, still keep with whatever you've started, because it provides a sense of comfort. So consistency being the third. And then fourth is just good common sense. I think one of the things we learned early on through this is, you know, some of the things that were being said or done with some of our supervisors and managers, you know, you kind of question the level of common sense in some of it, but also I'd go back to defending them and saying, again, uncharted territory, they've never been through it. They're just trying to do that flight or fight, or, and they're just doing what they think should be done. Out of their own concern. So continue to drill in on just using good common sense. And those 4 C's, I would just say, establish that and continue that over the next couple of days, weeks, and months to come.
That's great. That's great advice. I think that we do our check-in every day at 9 o'clock. It's the same time. Sometimes we have a lot to talk about. Other times we just sit there and we just see each other. It's like when you get in there in the morning and you have a cup of coffee and you catch up on the night before or the weekend. And I think it just provides that sense of camaraderie that we might even be getting closer. So we're probably seeing each other more, and because we're all like together instead of running the community. So thank you. Tricia, same question.
Thanks. I'm going to actually add a 5th C to Erin's, and I'm going to put culture as my 5th, only because we talked about that being something so strong at Crowley Web. And I don't know if any Crowley Webbers are on the call, so I hope I don't spoil this, but we've actually started talking about how are we going to welcome everybody back, and what are we going to do when we are back in the office again, together again, because it's important that we return not only to what people knew, but also now what will be the new normal and the new standard. So for example, I mentioned we weren't able to have our corporate retreat. We normally give out some sort of swag at the retreat. So can we have that on everyone's desk with a welcome back note from their manager or from our senior leadership team? That's something that we think would be really, really nice. Do we get together for a cookout? Do we, you know, what do we do to sort of welcome everybody back for weathering all of this? So we're thinking about that. We're also thinking about, though, what impact is this going to have long term, not only on us as a company, but on our clients as well. And as we start looking out towards what we expect to be Q3, Q4, and then into 2021, when we get into our planning, things will likely be different. And so how are we going to react and respond to that, and what do we need to do to adapt? Erin mentioned also the importance of policies, and we've been spending a lot of time on our policies, and we try and keep them a little bit more lax. I think our industry allows us to do that. But one of the things that we were talking at length about before all of this was our employees' desire to have flexibility and work from home. And we weren't sure how it was going to work and if it would be a good idea or not. And here we are, all forced into it, and guess what? It works. And so I think, you know, now we would probably go back and say, all right, that's an area where if our employees are looking for that, and if that's meaningful and important to them, then how do we offer up that flexibility, knowing full well that this works? So I think it's going to be a different day. I think, though, I know, at least for us, that we are closer, and as a company for it. I've been amazed by how appreciative our staff has been to everything that we as leaders have been doing for them. And sometimes I wonder, you know, do they ever really get it? Do they know how good they have it? Do they know how much they should appreciate the opportunity? Well, I know for sure now they do. And it makes me want to continue to lead on their behalf, because we are in this together and we will get through it, and we are strong. And so I miss their faces.
Aw.
Really do.
Well, I think that's wonderful advice. So we were chatting that as soon as this is done, we're all going to the spa together. So we're
Hey.
just in need of pedicures anyway. So, and one of our Leadership Buffalo current class owns a spa. So we want to help and go support her and get her back on her feet. So that's good stuff. One more to just finish along with what Tricia just said, Marcia, and then Aaron. You talk about how do you think this is going to change the way we actually do live, work, and learn moving forward?
Oh, yeah. Life as we know it, as we knew it, is gone. I mean, do you remember before and after 9/11, you know, that we had this major tragedy, and we never really thought about safety, especially airport safety. And now it's, you know, that it's become a way of life. I think we're going to have the exact same thing when it comes to managing a pandemic. We're going to think about germs and transmitting germs and the proximity of people and the closeness of people and how many people are in a room. Those rules are probably all going to change because we now have to be concerned about that. So will things change? With no doubt. But I also believe, and a lot of it goes back to what Tricia and Aaron were saying, I think that we will no longer take for granted this social aspect and the closeness and the connection. This has really taught us how critical that is. So we're going to find more and more mechanisms and ways in which to be connected with one another and stay connected with one another. I think that's one of the best things. We're also going to be a heck of a lot better at technology. There's a lot of really good things that are coming out of this, the connectedness, the technology, and many, many others. So it's not all horrible. We are changing. We're going to continue changing. We will evolve over time. And a lot of that evolution is going to be very good.
Yeah, sometimes it says it takes an extreme event to force change. Well, this is as extreme as we can get. But I'm getting better at technology, right, girls? Right, staff? They're probably not going to agree with that. Erin, same question. How do you think this is going to change the way we work, live, and learn?
Yeah. So I think from the work perspective, for me, all of this sort of tied into a topic that business professionals have been talking about for the last 5-10 years, and that's the millennial workforce and engaging millennials with the older workforce and just that generational gap. When I think of what we've transformed to, millennials thrive in this environment, and some of the practices that businesses have instituted now really sort of it sways towards what millennials have been asking for, and they are taking over the workforce today, and they're soon going to be the majority of our workforce. So I think if anything, for any organizations or businesses that have sort of been challenged or fighting that, what we're doing is we're now sort of amending our business practices to further support this new generation that's running and leading our businesses. So I find it to be quite exciting. Probably not much else to what Marcia had mentioned. We will see changes in the way that we socialize with people. I think there will be different work practices. I do wonder a little bit about even global travel. I do travel a lot internationally, and I am a bit curious as to how that will evolve and change over time. We are seeing from a business perspective, actually, we know our dependency on China for manufacturing. And in some of our businesses where we're in the supply chain, we're seeing more business swayed towards US manufacturers, including EMAC and EMED, that otherwise was originally primarily sourced out of China. So we may see a little bit of a shift in industry outside of some areas that they may have gone to previously, or at least dual source. So I think we'll see a shift there. Outside of that, the only other thing that I guess I'll add is, there's been a huge push, and we've done some things at EMAC where last week we sent every employee a $50 gift card with a message saying, please use this to support a local business. Because this whole crisis has really helped to shine light on how much we depend on our local businesses and how much they depend on us, restaurants, stores, the smaller ones. So I almost see there'll be a stronger push for your local mom and pop shops and your restaurants, and I hope to see a surge with that also in the community and just a greater focus on community and support. So I guess that's my response.
Wonderful. Well, we have about 6 minutes left. So does any of our fabulous panel want to offer any final thoughts on some tips that you could share to the audience?
I'll I'll go. I have two things I sort of intended to cover that didn't come up naturally. The first is that while we're not necessarily hiring right now, just because it's tough to onboard and bring someone on and train them, we might have to, and not knowing how long this is going to take, we've encouraged our staff to continue to interview for those open positions that we have on our website and on some of the job boards, because we know and we expect to come out of this stronger than ever. We really do. And we think the economy, we think our clients, we think it's really going to just catapult once we do come out of things. And so it's normally we would have said, oh, we really need to meet someone in person to be able to know and vet them and see if they would be a good fit for us. Well, we can do this technology right now and see that, and hopefully for some people who are job searching, put them at ease a bit to know that companies are still considering hiring coming out of this. So that was one point I wanted to make. And the second, which is personal, which is I think one of the good things to come out of this is that I'm having a family reunion on Sunday with members of my mother's side of the family that I haven't seen in probably 20 years. They've never met my nephews. We haven't all gotten together. There's been no reason why we couldn't have done this a month ago, yet it wasn't top of mind and we didn't think to. And now it's forcing us to make those connections again and reconnect with loved ones. So I would encourage you, reconnect with family, reconnect with friends. We had an LB15 call on Zoom the other day. So reconnect with your LB family as well, and really take advantage of this time that you have to reach out. You will put a smile on someone's face if you reach out. So please consider doing that.
Great advice. We've actually we're thinking about some of the same things ourselves. I've had more virtual happy hours this week, but we also are using the technology moving forward to conduct some of our interviews for our recruitment process, because it's very time consuming. And so it's just some new things that we can start to utilize. So any other final thoughts, Marcia and Erin?
I would just say what an honor it was to be here today. And actually, I feel inspired. I have heard so many great things from Erin and from Tricia. I feel more inspired leaving this than I did coming into it. So I'm grateful. So thank you.
Thank you. Erin, anything else? Final thoughts?
Yeah, I think just absolutely echo everything from Tricia and Marcia. I think the only other last piece is just for people on the call, especially those who are leaders, we focus so much on connecting with the people who work for you. Don't forget to continuously connect with your peer group as well. Stay close with them, share best practices. People who are really thriving in this environment and are able to continue to move forward. I see just ongoing communication and sharing. And on the other end, it is always so much appreciated on the receiving end of that. So just stay active in your communications with others and share what's working well.
Thank you.
I don't want to speak on behalf of Erin or Marcia, but I'm sure the three of us, if there are folks on the line that would like to connect, please do. And we'd love to be able to chat further, either about things that have worked for us or be able to offer advice or even ask you questions as well, knowing that you may be experts in your area. So let's all keep talking and stay connected. This is just the start.
Thanks, Tricia. So on that note, what we will do, we did have you register for this webinar. So if we do have your contact information, if there's anything that the panelists can share with you for resources, we'll certainly send that out to you. Jana, that's doable, right? I have to check with my technology person because that is not me. But I also want to just say thank you to these fabulous women for not just being here today, but for your leadership and the work you're doing in our community. So My final thoughts, just to let you know, we have 3 more of these coming up in April. And if this pandemic and social isolation and stay-at-home stuff continues, we will do these through May as well. Eric Eustace is on the call, and he was somebody who came up with the idea and helped us create this. So we tap into our Leadership Buffalo brains a lot. So thank you for being here today. Yes, Tricia.
One more. I wouldn't be the proper LB board chair without thanking the Leadership Buffalo team and talk about small but mighty, they always say, because 3 weeks ago we started talking and they have virtually and literally turned things upside down and been able to make these kind of things happen, as well as all of the programs. And look at Althea, she's crying because she does. But they have been absolutely incredible. We had a board meeting just yesterday, and the work that has gone into trying to make this organization continue to connect people and inspire change has been nothing short of extraordinary. So my thanks to you, Althea, and to the team for the job you've done.
Thank you to you as our board chair and our fabulous team. Now she's got me all teary-eyed. But just to end, I just want to thank our panelists and also let you know our next topics. Next Thursday, same time, same station. Don't I look like a newscaster here? This will be on educating your child in the new normal for those of you who do have children at home and that you're trying to homeschool them. Then we have a program the week after that for small business owners. And we have an outstanding panel for that. And then the week after that is nonprofit leadership in these uncertain times. So we will be asking you for suggestions if you have any topics you'd like to hear from us to help us create more town halls. And this is probably something that we're going to continue to do once life goes back to normal as we know it. But as I like to say, stay safe, stay positive, and stay home if you can. You have a wonderful evening, and now I think it's time for happy hour.
Yay!
Bye-bye, everyone. And if our panelists stay on, the panelists could stay